magnificent experiences filming Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. Is there anything you'd like to share with us?
You know, I was looking at Raiders again last night at a little screening here, and seeing all my friends. Some of them are last dead now. And it was a sort of very bittersweet experience. But I think Harrison will excuse me for saying this. But you know, it struck me that Paul Freeman's performance as Belosh in Raiders of the Lost Ark is actually, I think, the most complete and perfect performance of the lot. Harrison grows into the character, and it's definitive, and Harrison has now become one of our great and sterling international film stars. And I love Karen Allen beyond idolatry. But you know, I still think the very best performance in the whole thing is Paul Freeman's performance. And that's a real compliment, because I mean, it was a very remarkable film. One of those great and seminal experiences. I mean, you know, great filmmakers don't just make a great film. They actually change the possibility of the craft for other filmmakers. And that's what Stephen did in this. When I first read the script, my agent called me up and said, well, what did you think? And I said, well, it reads like a comic book. I mean, either this is either going to be a disaster, or it's going to set a new fashion in filmmaking. And it set a new fashion in filmmaking. Wonderful experience. Wonderful people to work with. And Stephen at his most effortlessly creative. Just bringing us through very difficult, it was a hard shoot, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I'm infinitely grateful to him for the opportunity of doing that. Working with Stephen, like working with Mozart, an absolute, complete sense that anything is possible, anything is doable. You know, he is arguably one of the very, very greatest directors of all times. Actually, if we were still making silent movies, I think that Stephen would be the greatest silent filmmaker there ever was. He can tell a story through image better than any man that I've ever known, any man that I've ever seen. And as I say, I'm very grateful for him giving me the chance of working with him, particularly on Raiders. Lovely Ronnie Lacey, now alas dead. Fellows. Wonderful people. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit nostalgic.
That's okay.
Go on, you asked some questions.
There's heavy rumours coming about the next Indiana Jones part. Do you think it's a good idea, or should it have been left to the trilogy?
Well, I hear these rumours every few years, and I've long since ceased to get excited by them. If it happens, it happens. But you have to understand, it really depends on the creative consent of three very remarkable men. George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Harrison Ford. And all those men in 1980 were in a quite different position in their lives from these men in 2000. They've matured, they've changed. You know, the Steven Spielberg who directed Raiders of the Lost Ark is now the man who's actually done Schindler's List. And that has a different gravitas and a different impetus. I think it would be fascinating to see a Steven Spielberg film of the fourth Raiders of the Lost Ark. Just to see how, in the intervening years, the vision had changed, matured. But none of these men do it for the money anymore. They do it for that extra glory, that extra chapter in the books of film. And a fourth script, the fourth story, has got to start off with the chance of being even greater than the first three. Otherwise, these guys aren't going to have time. Now, if they ever get to that stage where they decide this is the one, then oh God, I'd love to be in it. But it's a pretty hard thing to come and better the first one, or the third one. I'm allowed to say that because I wasn't in the second one. But it'll be great if it happens.
Yeah, certainly.
But don't count on it happening.
Is that a hint?
No, I had people coming up to me today saying, I hear you've turned down Raiders 4. I should be so lucky to have been asked to do Raiders 4. These things are still in the laps of the gods, and it'll be a remarkable film if it gets made. But if it doesn't get made, we've still got 1, 2, and 3.
We'll certainly have a lot to look up to.
Yes, it will. And not only has it got to live up to it, but it's got to be better than it.
Yeah.
And that's the great challenge.
Yeah. Which is your favourite, Raiders or The Last Crusade?
Actually, I think Raiders was such an unusual film for its time, and it changed the whole pattern of the whole way that films were made. It bred a whole succession of rip-offs and copycats and stuff like that. Just a marvel.
This has been a marvellous experience.
Thank you very much.
It can't be on words, sir.